Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we deliver the latest breaking news, vehicle reviews, and inside look at what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up. It's time to hit the road with The Drive.
Welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. We are back for another great episode, and we have lots of cool topics to discuss this time around. How are we doing today, Lauren?
Oh, we're doing good. I mean, have you pumped gas into your vehicle lately? I was really blown away.
I know. I want to say I'm doing good, and I think we're both doing good. But if you're not going to maybe be doing as well, if you start to look at your local gas prices as you drive by the stations, they've gone up a tad or two, haven't they, Lauren?
Oh my gosh! Now I have a diesel SUV, so when I went to fill up this morning, it was over $5 a gallon. I couldn't believe it because typically it's $75 to fill up. Yes, in the past it has been higher. And then diesel came down reasonably, gas prices came down reasonably. And then as we started opening up more production here in the US, gas prices also dropped. But now we've got what's going on around the world. And until that ends, until that stabilizes, gas prices are going to be high. And I just got to find ways to start saving some money.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, of course, I hear you say it's over $5. I paid $6.09 the other day, and I just talked to one of my friends in the industry who had to fill up a non-diesel heavy-duty Ram, and it was I was like he tried to make me guess, and I said, I don't know, like $132, $167. Because it was almost empty, and he put 27 gallons in. And he's like, I think it must have like a 30-gallon tank because I put 27 in. It was low, but it wasn't empty and all.
That's a lot of. Well, you live in California.
I know that's the first problem, first issue. But yeah, the prices are just, as always, higher here than anywhere else. And when they go higher for everyone, they go higher here than everywhere else again.
We were just in Santa Barbara driving the 27 Kia Telluride, and I was looking at prices. I saw $6.19 for premium fuel in Santa Barbara. Now I realize it's Santa Barbara. It's not like, the middle of normal places, but that was crazy. And for the average person, no matter where you live in the country, where you're listening to us, whether it be online or anywhere in the world, you can use apps like Gas Buddy, and you can actually do comparative pricing. They don't always have everything, but a lot of times people do self-reporting. Especially when you're looking at diesel fuel. And also you can use AAA, and there's other places you can shop around. I always recommend, this is where like Costco makes sense, or BJ's, depending on where you live. If you're a member, you get a discount. And so I am going to make my way after we're done with the show today to fill up over at BJ's, because I'm in the Northeast, and that's where you don't have BJ's, I don't think, where you are. You have Costco, right?
Yeah, we don't have that name out here. We do have Costco, but I always have noticed that when these kind of things happen with the prices, I went over there with a friend. I'm still not actually a member of Costco, but I went with a friend. He's like, I can get you in and let you fill up. I don't know how long we had to wait, Lauren. This was a couple of years ago during one of the spikes and all. And it was like, okay, guess what? We weren't the only ones with the idea of going to save money on gas at Costco.
Yeah, there's a lot of deals. Sometimes you can get a car wash and you can save, a couple pennies per gallon, but I think it always adds up. And then this is when we start realizing, that drive-through that you go through to get your coffee, your dry cleaning, whatever it is, maybe it's best you park the car, shut it off, go inside, not wait in line. Because I always have this little game I play where I park in the parking spot and I look at the last car in line and I go in and get my food or whatever it is. And I try to be out before that car even makes it to the food ordering board. So, so it becomes like a little game. And besides that, sitting in the line is 0 miles to the gallon. And if you're driving an electric car, electricity got more expensive too. If you're driving a hybrid, you're still using either electricity or using fuel. So try to consolidate your trips. Check your tire pressure once a month. That makes a huge difference, because if you're getting proper tire pressure, you're getting the best fuel economy possible.
Well, and here's another idea. Lauren, they have that stop-start technology, but older cars don't have it. I guess every time you're at a light, you could turn the key off and then start it again, right?
Not a fan of that.
Okay, bad idea. Okay,
that affects your safety.
I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, I hate start-stop. I think a lot of people do. Not only is it annoying when it's time to go and you have to have this delay, but it's also terrible to keep stopping and starting your engine. That's like the worst moment in an engine's existence and all. So don't save fuel. Don't kill your engine or destroy your engine by trying to save fuel. And if you have a newer car with start-stop, most of them you can turn it off.
You'll save a tablespoon of fuel. A tablespoon.
Yeah, you might think you're saving a very small amount of fuel, and it's probably even less than you think, and you're hurting your engine every time you're doing it. So
Yeah, it's amazing. But always remember that those delivery services get more expensive when gas prices go up too. So maybe use a bike, go for a walk, or consolidate those trips and try to be wise until the prices drop again.
That's what you want to do. All right. Well, we were going to take a quick break here, and we are going to be right back with more fun segments on the drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Classic Tube. When precision matters, professionals trust the original. From brake lines to fuel lines to transmission lines, every bend, every fit, engineered to perform. Classic Tube is at classictube.com. Get the exact fit, trusted quality, made in the USA.
Hi, welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and we have got a special guest this segment. It's Ted Ryan. He's Ford Motor Company historian, and I've talked to Ted and seen Ted on a few previous press trips, giving us like the history of the Mustang when it was redesigned in 2015, and then again it had its big refresh a few years ago. But now we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people have an affinity for, but don't always associate with cars, and that is Legos.
Yes.
Ted, I know Lauren, you and I talked about Legos. We're both fans of it, and so are our kids. But Ted, you've got a really interesting story to tell about a specific Lego Ford story and connection that happened recently.
I do. Well, I'm actually in my basement where you can see I'm an adult fan of Lego, and AFOL we call ourselves. So I build tons of Lego, and my 8 years at Ford, I've worked with Lego on a couple of projects. I just did a GT from the 66 winning GT, and we provide them pictures, and that's Ford Lego licensing partnership. In the case of this one, it is a beautiful 1913 Model T, and the designer of it was a young woman from Minnesota who fell in love with the T, and she asked for special access to the archives. And so our licensing team connected us, and we were pen pals every other week, an email from Ann with another detail. Where would the gas tank have been? Where would this happen? And we helped her perfect what was the Model T. So for a year, I kept it secret for a year that the Model T was even coming out. But we eventually, in correcting her renderings and whatnot, felt like she had come up with an absolutely exquisite version of the T.
That's amazing because Legos are something that both Karl's kids and my kids love. And today's Legos are completely different. I think that the adults that, we played with them as kids, now the adults are building these as models, and they've become quite lucrative.
They are. The Lego group almost went bankrupt 2 decades ago, and they went back and they refocused on things that are important. What's interesting, and it's a great Model T story, they focus on things that are culturally important. So I've got the Beatles behind me. Those are 4 Lego kits and the Model T and Harry Potter. You can go buy right now from Lego Harry Potter Ford Anglia that would have gone into the Whomping Willow tree.
Oh,
so it's cultural things. So in the case of this, it is a absolutely perfect rendition of a 1913 Model T. Lego actually, for the first time ever, created a white wheel.
Wow. And you can see all this on our YouTube channel. So for those of you that are listening and you're like, oh, I want to see it, you can either go to Lego's site or go to the Drive Car Show on YouTube, and you will see Ted holding that, plus the Beatles pictures behind him. And I see a Bronco there also. So it sounds like you're working on some other projects.
We did the Bronco, and there's other future ones that have come. It's a great partnership because Ford and Lego and automobiles, you can go get almost any F1 car now. They are things that resonate in pop culture. Part B of my other story was that I actually went to Le Mans last year to set up exhibits at the race. Since I was going to be in Europe, I wrote to Ann, the designer, said, "You want to see some real material from the Model T?" So I brought the 1913 brochure. I brought all this great stuff. Nice. Lego loved it so much, they actually took all of those material. We scanned them and they put them into the build book to show the next generation the impact of the universal car and the role that the Model T played in the rest of the world.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
That really is.
Fabulous.
The Model T.
They pay me to do this, guys. They pay me to do this.
You have the job everybody wants, right?
Yeah. Well, tell us about the Lego headquarters. What was that like?
Lego headquarters is a flight of imagination, just as you would imagine. Think Willy Wonka.
Yes. I was just going to say.
It was very Willy Wonka. And since our project was secret, we were actually in a room with frosted glass, and she walks in with a box and pulls out her prototype. And it was interesting because there were still elements that were wrong. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. It only had one light on the back of the car, not two. So she points it off and then makes yet another correction. So it was wonderful. And they took me to what's called the Inspiration Archive, which is where they have one of every set. You're not allowed to take cameras in there, but they actually took a picture of me holding a 1965 Mustang GT 350 Lego kit from a couple of years ago. So
are those even still available?
No, and they're quite expensive on the back on the aftermarket. So it was wonderful, and I was taken by the fact that Lego focuses on what's important in culture. Right now, F1 is so important, and the other thing was their attention to detail and getting the T perfect, and then using that as an opportunity to educate the kids or the teens that are going to build these. I've got the Notre Dame. You can't see it behind me, but it gives a history of the Cathedral of Notre Dame. And so they teach at the same time as they entertain. And it's a fantastic group to work with.
Wow, what an experience. Karl, we have to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah, I know. I think it's time to go over there to do an interview with maybe Ann, who did the T, and anyone else at Lego who will talk to us.
Well, they did. One you got to get is they actually did a full-size working F1 vehicle that they had last year at one of the races. So maybe it'll be at Miami in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah. That would be fun to see too in person. Well, this has been amazing, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your adventure in helping them build a brand new Lego from a very old, some would argue, the original car that got America on wheels, at least. So that's been fabulous to hear about. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back with more on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and this segment is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That's my YouTube channel where I'm putting up multiple videos a week. They range from Maserati GT2 Stradales to Gone in 60 Second Mustangs from the movie. A lot of fun cars over there that I'm driving, and you see on my Karl Brauer Cars channel on YouTube.
We have a special interview today. When it comes to trucks, the number one selling truck of all time is the Ford F-Series Super Duty. So we have Austin Solimene. He is the Super Duty brand manager, and there's some big changes for Super Duty. So we wanted to bring Austin on and let us know what is new for the 2027 Ford F-Series Super Duty.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the time. Really excited to talk about 2027 Super Duty. And the highlight here really for our customers is that we have listened to their requests and we have come with the most off-road capability ever on the Super Duty lineup based on customer feedback. You'll see that with the expansion of our Tremor package, the new XL off-road package, and availability of Tremor on our long wheelbase pickups.
Well, so you're going to have crew cabs, and you're going to have the full four doors, the extended cab, and a regular cab, correct?
So Tremor will remain available on our crew cabs. Now for 27, you're able to get Tremor on our XL trim with the STX package. So Tremor is now available on Super Duty all the way from XL up to our Platinum Plus. So customers at every single price point have access to a functional off-road package with Tremor.
So you've also got optional wheels available. The 35-inch tires, that's really more of an off-road tire than it is an on-road tire. Although I shouldn't talk because my Raptor R has the bigger tires too. So tell us about some of the more capability that's being involved.
Yeah, so with Tremor coming to STX, we're also introducing the XL off-road package, a little bit more of a commercial and business-oriented package. It's bringing capability to our fleet and commercial customers that have to go off-road to get the job done. So you get the larger 35-inch tires, skid plates, trail control, rock crawl mode, all in the XL off-road 35-inch tire package.
So is it improved technology as well? Because I think one of the things as a Super Duty owner, I think every couple of years when we upgrade, we always like, oh, I want more. I want the massaging seats, or because I have a 1-ton truck, so that's the F350. But Super Duty is so much more than that. So give us some details on what's going on.
Sure. Yeah. So new for 27, we have our Platinum chassis cab being introduced. So previously, chassis cab on F350, 450. 550 and all the way up to 600 was available on up to Lariat trim series. Now our customers have asked for more, and we're delivering the Platinum chassis cab with the Platinum trim series on our 350, 450 chassis cabs.
Now, as far as towing capacity, now Karl's got a Demon. He takes that to the track. You need a truck, Karl.
Yeah. Yeah, I know trucks are nice to have. And I'm curious, Austin, whether off-road or towing, do you see more growth in between those two demands across F Series Super Duty customers?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So typically on Super Duty, we have over 95% of our customers towing consistently with their truck, right? Our customers buy a Super Duty because they need that best in class towing capability that we offer. And the thing that's great about Tremor is that we offer no compromises, right? And with 27 model year, we have Tremor expanding to the long wheelbase. Well, that offers the 8-foot box, which is ideal for customers that need to do gooseneck or fifth wheel towing, but also need the off-road capability of Tremor. So I would say it's both. We're seeing growth, consistent growth in towing and consistent growth in our off-road demand as well.
There's a lot of technology. Great. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think one of the things that people want to know is, what else am I getting? Because there's so much more that you're offering.
Yeah, so specifically to the Tremor package, that comes with a factory lift on the suspension. So that's increased ride height, improved approach angles with a lower front air dam, rock crawl mode, trail turn assist and trail control, skid plates and water fording vent tubes. That's all included in our off-road packages that you're getting with Tremor.
Well, that's great. And beyond the Tremor specific packages, what do you consider kind of the most capable or owner enhancing technologies that the F Series offers? Because there's new technology that came this year as well, right?
Yeah, so overall, right, our signature technologies that our customers rely on often have to do with towing. Things like our Pro Trailer Backup Assist, our onboard scales, all are designed with our customer in mind to make that towing more efficient, more productive, and easier for our customers. And a lot of that's driven off customer feedback and how we go out to the field and we listen to our customers. So now that's not necessarily specific to the Tremor package, but those are just some of the key towing technologies that our customers are always asking for.
I think that makes sense. I mean, towing, especially if you're hauling an RV or a trailer, you got a fifth wheel or a gooseneck, and we've towed with all of them. I mean, the big thing is towing capacity. What is your towing capacity up to on like a 250 or a 350, which is a very common truck?
Sure, yeah. So we don't have 27 towing capacities published yet. We'll have more on that in our powertrain offerings as we open up the order bank in May. But we do have our best-in-class towing on our 26 model year, which goes up to 40,000 pounds and a gooseneck max available towing.
That's a lot of towing.
Wow.
Sure is. Sure is.
That's a lot of capability. Well, Austin, we know that trucks just continue to be hugely popular with U.S. consumers, and more capable trucks and bigger trucks and higher ratings for everything from payload towing to ground clearance for off-roading just keeps driving the market forward. And a lot of competition. There's also a lot of profit to be made on these trucks. That's a great business model for the 3 Detroit-based automakers. So thank you for coming on and giving us all this information on the newest Super Duty that's coming from Ford. It's a hugely important vehicle for both you, but also for the customer base. And we will have you on again. We like hearing from the industry folks talking about product like this. So we'll definitely have you on again. And thank you for joining us on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and this segment is brought to you by IC Cars. That's where I'm executive analyst, and we are always looking at the consumer market for buying cars, what car you should buy, what's going on in the market, and all the listings across the country. Search locally, nationally, or anywhere in between for your next new or used car at iccars.com. So we have a very special guest on for the next couple segments here, Karen Bailey Chapman. And she is the head of advocacy for a little organization that, if you're a car person, you may have heard of, called SEMA, the Specialty Equipment Market Association. Did I get that right?
It's not little anymore. This is
little. No, it's huge. It's a monster association. I was being facetious. It's a monster association. And if you are into vehicles that are anything more than just what you buy and drive out of the showroom and never touch again, but actually want to enjoy and maybe personalize in one way or another, SEMA is your best friend because they help organize the entire industry, the automotive industry, around aftermarket shops, tire places, wheels, audio systems, body panels, and everything else you can imagine. All those companies that make all the things that allow us to have fun with our cars, SEMA is their advocate. And Karen Bailey Chapman is SEMA's advocate for government relations and a lot of the things going on that allow us to do those things and hopefully not get taken away from us. So with that belabored intro, Karen, welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, thanks, Karen. You know,
Yeah, well,
you're doing a lot right now on modifications. And as someone I've been racing since since I was 16, don't do the math, a long time ago. SEMA is a huge part of that, because whether you want to put headers on an older car or you want to go racing or you want to do a driving school, any of those components and pieces SEMA is a part of. So tell us why Right to Modify is so important and what SEMA is doing to help us be able to do what we want with our cars.
Sure. I think, the technology that's coming off the assembly line now today, the vehicles that are coming off the assembly line right now are largely computers, right? They're a lot different than the cars of 20 years ago, 30 years ago or more. And so prior to this, modification was really mechanical. You lifted, you lowered, you put a bigger tire on, you did these pieces, put a bumper on, and it was all good to go. As long as it rolled and moved and did what it was supposed to do, we were good to go. But with what's called advanced driver safety systems, or ADAS, that's now made it a little bit more complicated, because all of those safety systems, the buzzing, when you're going too close to the lane line, or someone's coming up in your blind spot, or something's behind you, those systems can change. They're all run by sensors and cameras and radar and LiDAR. It depends on what vehicle that you're in and what those systems are. So that's really changed the dynamic of how our products will now interact with those vehicles. Because if I'm an off-roader, I'm a Jeep owner, first thing I replace are the bumpers. So I put nice, heavy bumpers on my vehicles. And the fact is that, what if the sensors are in there? So what does that now do to your safety system? And so because of technology's rapid evolution with regards to our vehicles, we want to ensure that going forward, because we know the government's always going to regulate at some point in time, which they already have started regulating some of these systems, they also now have to account for the aftermarket. Right. So for the consumers and for the product manufacturers, of how does this all work with your vehicles that now have these advanced driver safety systems?
It's funny, across the country, people don't realize the impact of the aftermarket has on businesses, local businesses, national businesses, whether you're talking about an Edelbrock manifold, or you've got a small company in St. Louis, or a company in Buffalo, New York, or even Denver, Colorado. All of these little companies hire people. Those jobs make a difference to our economy. The impact on SEMA and having the ability for you to do this is actually an impact to our bottom line, our economy.
Exactly. I mean, look, SEMA did an economic impact report a couple of years ago, and the reality is that we actually add or contribute $337 billion to the U.S. economy as an industry, and we employ 1.3 million Americans. That's huge. And that's huge. Why whenever people say, "Oh, you guys are just a little industry," like, "Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not."
Yeah. Well, think about all the tire stores in your city. If you live even in a little town, you're going to have at least one or two. And if you're in any kind of decent metro-sized area, you're going to have hundreds of just tire stores. Okay. Yep. That's part of what we're talking about here. If all of a sudden there's more advanced tire pressure sensors, and you want to change wheels, but you got to keep the tire pressure sensor working properly so that it's talking to the rest of the sensors that you mentioned, Karen. That's all part of what we're talking about here. And you want to be, and if all of a sudden there was a thing where it's like, no, you can't change your wheels because that's going to mess with the rest of these systems. And all. You're legally not allowed to change your wheels anymore. That would be a nightmare for a lot of people, justifiably so.
So what is SEMA doing, though, to help us so that we can make our cars?
We can
take the bumpers off your Jeep. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly, you're kind of touching on, is like, these are the basic things. These are really basic things that the consumer, even just the average consumer, so not us crazy people that like to change everything we buy, but the average consumer, is the fact that something that's just a basic, like a wheel or a tire or any of these other, put a bike rack on the back of your vehicle. These all will have impact on your safety systems and ultimately on how your car will perform. So what we're doing is we've got legislation currently in Congress being considered called, it's actually got a really long name, so I won't complicate it. But basically, it's directing the Safety Administration, what's called NHTSA, to start creating guidelines and standards so that aftermarket parts can talk to the ADAS systems in the original manufacturing. And so this is really a starting point for us because, again, this is sort of the first time the aftermarket and the OE world are kind of coming and crossing into each other's space. And the regulators who will eventually will be regulating us need to start to think about how these technologies interact with each other. Because it can be something as simple as, your blind spot detector. Well, if you're pulling a trailer or motorhome or whatever the case is, and you don't have the fancy expensive truck that has the the trailer mirrors that pop out, well, when you go and you put the trailer on and it's not there, well, it starts beeping at you. Or if you go and you put aftermarket trailer mirrors that will go out so that when you're hauling, it has that. Well, that system's not necessarily going to be talking to your system, and your system may say, hey, you're out of compliance, and may sit there and keep beeping at you. Beeping's really annoying, but it also could advance to the point where maybe your vehicle doesn't go. And so this is the time that we have to start to have this conversation and start to sort of, if you will, preempt the regulation, so that as regulation is considered, we're considered as an industry as well.
I think that's really important. I mean, I think we've all had that experience where it's dinging. You're like, why is the car dinging? I didn't do anything. I got my seatbelt on. And it's because of these advanced safety systems. And Karl and I talk about these all the time. There's a point where the nannies are just too much. And I think we're kind of there right now.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and I'd like to think that it's set up so that if it's there and it's helping you, that's great. But you should always have the ability to turn these things off. You should always have the ability to be like, I want to turn this thing off, whether it's, I don't want it trying to help me anymore because it's not really helping me for whatever reason, or I'm hooking up something new and that's going to start beeping at me and all. And I want to turn it off.
And that's really where this started. It's with the forward collision, AEB, advanced emergency braking, or automatic emergency braking, excuse me, that is now going to be mandatory in vehicles starting model year 29. We put in comments, even the OEs put in comments saying, hey, you need to consider this, and this with these regulations. One of our things was you need to put in a kill switch, because if you're taking your street legal vehicle to the track, automatic emergency braking doesn't work if you're on an oval or somebody goes in front of you, or if you're an off-roader. How's that going to work? And so, unfortunately, the regulators at that time ignored it. Just ignored this guidance and said, well, you shouldn't have to do it anyways, or you shouldn't be using it that way anyways. And it's like, well, that is how consumers do use their vehicles, or some consumers choose to. And therefore, the regulations need to address how this works and how consumers can interact with their vehicle that they own.
Yeah.
That's true.
Government regulators ignoring the consumer or citizen needs. I guess it's possible. Hard to imagine. But. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we are going to come back after this break with more from Karen and The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Car Coach Reports. Cut through the noise. That's my news channel where we give you the facts, what's going on in your world and how it's going to impact your bottom line. No spin. You can watch on Car Coach Reports on YouTube. Check out my full car reviews at Car Smarts. Get the facts before you buy. Now, we are back talking with Karen Bailey Chapman, who is the head of SEMA Advocacy. She is a really neat woman who is really got her feet in Washington, trying to make things right for us. And one of the things you're working on is the right to race. And I think this is a really interesting subject, and I am standing with you 100%.
Yeah, this is a really exciting initiative that we kicked off last year and have continued, and we'll continue this for at least another couple of years, or until we can get this kind of legislation passed in as many states as possible. But essentially, these are what I call the anti-nuisance laws. And so anybody that does racing, anybody that has a local track or is a client of or a frequent visitor of your local track, a lot of local tracks were often built out in a cornfield somewhere way out of the city limits, away from everybody, can do what you want. Well, as development has continued beyond the city limits, that development has actually started to encroach on the tracks. And then the new neighbors have decided, well, I don't like that track that, is, racing on Saturday mornings or, Sunday nights or whenever they may be racing. And so what they've started to use is basically government to try to shut these tracks that may have been there 50, 60 years, well before their house ever was, trying to use nuisance laws to shut them down. And so the two first bills that were passed were in Iowa and North Carolina in 2025. And now we've got a slew of states lined up to pass more of these this year. Some have died an early death in their sessions, but that's all right. We'll go back and continue this effort over the next couple of years. So we're really excited about the opportunity to, again, create the opportunity to protect our local racetracks. When you move in next to a big speedway, you know it's there. You see it, right? You
Right.
maybe you chose to move there because the speedway is right there. So there's usually other cool stuff around it. But the fact is that, like, your local drag strip and so forth, maybe the home buyer didn't know that it was there and now decided, well, I don't like it there. So it's giving just another layer of protection for our local racetracks around the country.
I appreciate it. I think the big one is Lime Rock, Connecticut. I've raced there for decades, and the church across the street made it so you can't race on Sundays. You put the church there after the track was there. The track's been there since the 50s. So I'm sure that's one of the ones you're fighting for. And then we've lost a few tracks like Pit Race, which is very sad. It was outside of Pittsburgh. But there's a lot of tracks, and some have changed hands. There's one in your neck of the woods too, Karl, that just got picked up, I think, by Singer, the Porsche.
Yeah, Willow Springs just was purchased and all, and they're refurbishing it. The one that always breaks my heart, because I grew up with it, was Bandimere Speedway in Denver. You know, I raced there before I had my driver's license and all. I was racing my 69 Plymouth GTX there, and it was so much fun. And I heard about how that track was finally closing in the past year. I think it was year and a half, and it just was. I was like, oh man, my track is going away. And it was such a great track. You know, they had the Mile High Nationals there, and the high altitude made it real interesting. You know, it's like, what kind of numbers can you not just pull, but pull at a very big deficit of oxygen and stuff. So I just felt like, and it was a great layout. And Skip Vandermeer was like 2 years. One of the sons of the family was like 2 years behind me. I saw him in high school, had a nice 55 Chevy. And now that track's gone, all closed down. It's very sad.
Yeah, local racetracks really have a lot of challenges, you know, everything from insurance to just the cost of doing business to nuisance laws to a whole host of things, just like any other small business. And that's the thing, is that a lot of these local racetracks are small businesses. And so they're really facing a lot of different challenges. So this is one thing, you know, when we are successful, at least takes one thing off their plate to worry about, because, you know, they have to deal with this, and they have to hire a lawyer, and lawyers cost money, and then it's time that they don't have because they're trying to put on their race events to, you know, cover the cost. And so this is just one piece of a larger puzzle of work that we're doing, particularly within the racing industry, to help give our local tracks the best ability to do business as they should be allowed to do.
I agree. And I think it's sad because, I mean, I live in Lancaster, my office is in Lancaster, New York. We have a drag strip here. And Friday nights, everyone knows that's going on. You just find a different road. But I think some people get frustrated. But I just hope that the people you're speaking with in Washington understand that this affects the people that elect them to get into office. I think that's the big factor.
Yeah. We've had a lot of success and these are all laws that we're passing at state level. But these are the things that, you know, really matter. I live near a track. It's a historic track in West Virginia, Summit Point Raceway.
Yes.
When I get up in the morning on Saturdays to go, you know, do my chores, and I hear everything firing up, I'm like, that, to me, that's the sound of summer.
Yes.
And it's just exciting to know that some people are having some fun while I'm doing my chores. And I'm wishing I was over there right now.
One of my favorite tracks. Yeah.
Well, and one of my favorite tracks is Mazda. Well, what is it called now? Laguna Seca. You know, WeatherTech. I think it's WeatherTech now. But that's a fabulous track. And thankfully, we know California particularly, every once in a while can be a bit draconian from the government side. But that track was badged a historical site. And so now it's protected. But there's still, you got to be careful about sound and everything. You know, there's sound limitations and all. But, you know, a fabulous facility that's protected. But most of them, as you know, Karen and Lauren, they don't have that protection, and they're just, you're hoping they're going to be okay. This has been really great, Karen. Thank you for coming on and telling us all this great information and letting us know that you're out there doing your advocacy for this. It confirms how important SEMA is and the work that you guys are doing. So thank you for joining us, and we will take a quick break and be right back with more from The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. We've had a lot of great conversations already, but there's still an important one to have, and that is on what's going on with new and used cars in terms of demand and prices. I think anyone who's been looking at cars and considering buying a car for the last 5 to 6 years has probably been frustrated with the high prices. And they've moderated a little bit in recent years, but they're still much higher than they were in, say, 2019 before COVID. And it's pretty painful to watch, right? Well, there's also the speed. So the prices we all know. Well, what about how fast cars are selling? Because the two are related to each other. If cars are selling quickly and prices are high, there's pretty much no chance they're going to come down. If prices are high and cars start selling slower, they're taking longer and longer for the dealer to get rid of, you could be preceding a start in price drops, because dealers are going to get tired of watching those cars take up space on their lot, and they're going to start lowering the price to get rid of them. Well, if you agree with that thinking, the latest IC car study that we did is very encouraging, because new and used cars are looking like they're starting to take longer and longer to sell.
Means
And
deals.
we looked at it. Yeah, exactly, Lauren. And so first of all, a couple things. If you go to a lot of sites, and certainly if you go to IC Cars, we will tell you how long the car has been on the lot. It'll tell you how long that car's been listed for sale. So you can automatically look at two different cars. And if you're looking at two different Honda Accords, and one's been for sale for 7 days and one's been for sale for 77 days, ooh, one of those might have a little more deal. You might have a little more opportunity to deal on one of those than the other. And we'll also tell you about price changes at IC Cars. How many times has the price changed? If it's been on for 7 days, it probably hasn't changed yet. If it's been on for 77 days and you can see 3 price changes and it dropped from 18,000 to 16,800, you know that the dealer is starting to get tired of the car and they're trying to get the thing out the door by lowering the price.
Right.
So with all that said, we looked at the average days on market. That's how long it takes to sell a car from when it lands on the lot to when it leaves. Days on market, new and used cars. We looked at that, and it was pretty interesting, Lauren. I've got the study right here, so I'm looking at it.
You're the big data guy. You've got all this info.
I'm such a data geek. It's pathetic. But it took 53 days to sell the average used car in February.
That's a lot longer than usual.
Yeah, Lauren. A year earlier, it was 37.7 days. That's a 40% increase in how long it took to sell cars compared to February of 25 versus February of 26. And it's been going up. It was 51.7 days in January of 26. It was 46.9 in December, 49.8 in November.
It's getting worse.
You go back a year and they were like in the 30s. Now we're in the high 40s and low 50s. So if these days for used cars keep extending, used car dealers are going to get tired of that. Now, new cars, it's not quite as extreme, but it's fascinating because, at least if you're a data geek like me, if you look at new cars, they were much closer to the previous year. You know, year over year is how you're supposed to measure things, because you don't want to say, you can do month over month too, but year over year is the best way, because it's like, it's the same time as last year, what was going on. And the changes in like September and October of 25, it was like, it was 1.5% shorter or longer. You know, it was changing by less than 5 to 10%. The last 2 months that we have on record here, January and February of 26, 15% longer on both those months. It went from 48 days, to 58 days. So it was potentially suggesting that maybe new cars, they're getting harder to sell too.
Wow. So tell us, now you got me all excited. What vehicles are selling the fastest and which ones are selling the slowest? Because I think consumers want to know that, like, hey, I was thinking about buying that brand new Kia Telluride. Now, you know what? They're selling really fast. Why they call them the Celluride. And what's selling slow? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. So what's fascinating is the fastest selling used car, Tesla Model X.
Really?
Then the Mercedes-Benz EQS, and then the Tesla Cybertruck. So then you're like thinking, well, wow, these electric cars are really hot, right? Well, then 4 was the Mazda Miata, 5 was the Toyota GR Supra, and 6 was the Genesis G90, and 7 was the Rivian R1S.
Love the Genesis.
Genesis is great. So a lot of EVs. So you're thinking, see, they shouldn't have taken those things. EVs are still hot. Okay, what are the slowest selling used car? Volvo XC60 hybrid, BMW i5 electric, Dodge Hornet hybrid, Lincoln Nautilus hybrid, and number 5, GMC Sierra EV. So there's EVs on the slow side and EVs on the fast side. Here's what's interesting. All the Teslas were selling fast, and a lot of the electric cars, especially the more expensive electric cars, were selling slow. Tesla has always been its own kind of audience, its own following, and people need to realize that every time these companies say, we're going to be the next Tesla, you're not. Tesla is its own little world, and it never does what the rest of the market does.
Of course, you can see that. You can see that full study at iccars.com. Karl's has got you crush it, man.
It's always fun looking at the data. I'm such a data geek. But this has been a great episode, Lauren. I think we had a lot of fun, had a lot of great guests on, a lot of great information. And please look for us on all our social medias, and we will be back again next week with more from The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.